10. The Pied Piper. In the legend of the Pied Piper, we encounter a village overwhelmed by a rat infestation. A peculiar individual arrives adorned in garments of various colors and offers to free the town from the vermin. The townsfolk, seeking relief, strike a deal to reward the piper handsomely if he succeeds. Remarkably, he accomplishes the task by playing enchanting melodies on his pipe, luring all the rats away from the village. However, when the piper returns to claim his payment, the villagers refuse to honor their agreement. Frustrated by their deceit, the Pied Piper decides to take drastic action and rid the town of its children as well. In most contemporary versions, the piper entices the children to follow him into a cave located outside the town. Eventually, when the townspeople relent and agree to fulfill their promise, the piper allows the children to return unharmed. However, in the original and darker rendition, the piper leads the children to a river where they tragically perish, except for a disabled boy who is unable to keep pace. Some present-day scholars argue that this fairy tale may contain underlying references to pedophilia. 9. Little Red Riding Hood. The commonly known rendition of this narrative concludes with the heroic woodsman rescuing Red Riding Hood by slaying the malevolent wolf. However, it is worth noting that the original French adaptation penned by Charles Perrault was far from idyllic. In this alternate rendition, the protagonist is portrayed as a refined young lady who, when inquiring about the path to her grandmother's house, falls victim to the wolf's deceitful instructions. Regrettably, Red Riding Hood naively heeds the wolf's counsel, leading to her untimely consumption. The tale concludes here. Devoid of any intervention from a woodsman or the grandmother, only a plump wolf and a lifeless Red Riding Hood remain. The moral of this narrative underscores the importance of refraining from accepting guidance from unfamiliar individuals. 8. The Little Mermaid. The 1989 rendition of The Little Mermaid is often referred to as the monumental tale. In Disney's adaptation, the story concludes with Ariel, the mermaid, undergoing a transformation into a human so that she can unite with Eric in matrimony. Their wedding is a splendid affair, graced by both humans and merfolk. However, in the original version penned by Hans Christian Andersen, the mermaid witnesses the prince marrying a princess, plunging her into despair. She is then presented with a knife, tempting her to fatally strike the prince. Yet, instead of succumbing to such an act, she chooses to leap into the sea, meeting her demise as she transforms into mere foam. Hans Christian Andersen later revised the ending, introducing a subtle alteration to offer a more uplifting conclusion. In this revised finale, rather than perishing as foam, the mermaid transcends into a daughter of the air, patiently awaiting her journey to heaven. Nevertheless, it is worth noting that she remains deceased in essence and effect. 7. Snow White. In the well-known story of Snow White, we encounter a fascinating twist. The queen, driven by her malevolent desires, commands a huntsman to execute Snow White and retrieve her heart as evidence. However, the huntsman, burdened with compassion, finds himself incapable of such a dreadful act and cunningly presents the heart of a wild boar instead. Remarkably, Disney's rendition of the tale managed to retain much of its original essence. Although it did omit a crucial detail, the Queen's initial request in the authentic version was actually for Snow White's liver and lungs, intended to be served as a chilling feast that very evening. 6. Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, in the original narrative of the enchanting Sleeping Beauty, the fair princess falls into a profound slumber after pricking her delicate finger on a spindle. This prolonged sleep spans a staggering 100 years until a valiant prince, at long last, graces the scene. With a gentle touch of his lips, he bestows upon her a reawakening, as they delve into the depths of an amorous connection. The union culminates in a joyous matrimony, and, as expected, they embark on an eternal journey of bliss. However, prepare yourself, for the unaltered account holds a bitter revelation that will truly leave you incredulous. In the authentic rendition, the maiden succumbs to a somber destiny driven by an ominous prophecy rather than a conventional curse. And contrary to popular belief, it is not the fervent kiss of a prince that rouses her from her dormant state, Instead, it is the king himself who, upon witnessing her tranquil repose and harboring unsavory desires, perpetrates a violation against her virtue. Following this deplorable act, 9 months elapse, during which the princess unwittingly bears 2 offspring while remaining ensnared in her slumberous state. In an astonishing twist, one of the infants inadvertently removes the minuscule flax fragment that served as the key to her prolonged sleep by suppling upon her finger. It is then, as the princess awakens from her deep slumber, that she discovers the grim reality of her violated existence and embraces the unforeseen role of a mother to her unwitting progeny. 5. Rumpelstiltskin. There existed a peculiar fairy tale that deviated from the norm, as the original author decided to infuse it with a touch of macabre. In its unaltered form, the narrative revolved around Rumpelstiltskin, a mystical being capable of transmuting straw into precious gold for a young maiden teetering on the brink of death. In exchange for this miraculous deed, he cunningly demanded her firstborn child as recompense. Initially agreeing to this ghastly arrangement, the maiden found herself incapable of fulfilling her end of the bargain when the fateful day arrived. However, fortune favored her as she overheard Rumpelstiltskin unwittingly revealing his true name through an enchanting melody by the warmth of a crackling fire. She deftly employed this newfound knowledge and successfully pronounced his name with utmost accuracy. Consequently, Rumpelstiltskin, consumed by a furious rage, embarked on a frenzied retreat, vanishing forever from the mortal realm. Nevertheless, in the revised rendition of this tale, the events took on a more grisly nature, unveiling a considerably bloodier conclusion. Enraged beyond measure, Rumpelstiltskin, driven by an uncontrollable wrath, forcibly impaled his right foot deep into the earth's bosom. With an unfathomable determination, he then seized his left limb and ruthlessly tore his own body asunder, cleaving himself in 2 with grotesque brutality. Needless to say, this abominable act resulted in his immediate demise, bringing an unequivocal end to his malevolent existence. 4. Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Once upon a time, in a captivating narrative, we are introduced to the charming Goldilocks, a delicate and ethereal being who chances upon the dwelling of the 3 bears. Craftily infiltrating their abode, she indulges in their delectable sustenance, reclines upon their seating arrangements, and eventually drifts into a slumber upon the diminutive bear's bed. Upon their return, the bears stumble upon her peaceful repose. Stirring from her reverie, she hastily flees through the window, gripped by sheer terror. Intriguingly, the original chronicle, originating from the year 1837, to be precise, harbors 2 plausible iterations. In the first rendition, the bears discover Goldilocks and mercilessly tear her asunder, partaking in her flesh as sustenance. In the second rendition, Goldilocks surprisingly assumes the form of an aged crone who, similar to the sanitized adaptation, hastily exits through a window upon the bear's awakening. Concluding the tale, we are informed that she either suffered a fatal neck injury during her precipitous descent or faced apprehension for vagrancy, subsequently being consigned to the confines of the House of Correction. 3. Hansel and Gretel. There existed a widely renowned rendition of the tale known as Hansel and Gretel. This captivating narrative unfolds the plight of 2 diminutive offspring who find themselves ensnared within an enigmatic forest, eventually stumbling upon a delectable gingerbread abode that happens to be the property of a malevolent sorceress. For a period, these innocent children find themselves in the clutches of the witch, as she readies them for an unsavory fate. However, exhibiting their resourcefulness, they ingeniously devise an escape plan, overthrowing the nefarious enchantress and vanquishing her in a blaze of fiery retribution. In an alternate version of this timeless tale, originating from the annals of French folklore and aptly named The Lost Children, the central antagonist takes the form of a sinister devil rather than a witch. Herein lies a peculiar twist, as the cunning young protagonists employ a similar strategy to outsmart their malevolent captor. However, this cunning devil unravels their scheme and promptly contrives a treacherous apparatus known as a sawhorse, intending to employ it as an instrument of macabre bloodletting upon one of the innocent children. Yes, you read that correctly, such a dreadful act truly unfolds. Sensing the imminent peril, The quick-witted children feign ignorance regarding the proper way to mount the malicious contraption, coercing the devil's consort into offering a practical demonstration. Seizing the opportune moment, the children seize their chance at liberation, swiftly and mercilessly severing the throat of the devil's spouse before making their daring escape. 2. Rapunzel. This intriguing German legend has captured considerable intrigue and inspired numerous parodies throughout the years. The famous phrase Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair has become deeply ingrained in our memories. However, the grim version of the tale reveals that the blissful reunion of the couple was far from easy, as they had to endure numerous challenges and hardships. Rapunzel, pregnant and abandoned, was banished into the wilderness by the enraged witch, while the prince suffered blindness from his fall into the thorny brambles after descending from the tower. Interestingly, an even earlier rendition of the story was penned in 1600 by an Italian author named Giambattista Basile. In this variant, Rapunzel is sold to an ogre in her infancy, as a consequence of her mother's theft of parsley from a garden. Throughout her entire life, she remains imprisoned in a tower and is compelled to surrender her firstborn child. Fans of the Broadway musical Into the Woods may find this version familiar. However, the original account that served as the inspiration for all these adaptations is the most somber of them all. Rather than an evil witch locking a beautiful girl in a tower, it was the girl's own father who held her captive, exercising such extreme control over her life that it tragically led to her demise. 1. Cinderella. In the contemporary retelling of the Cinderella fairy tale, we witness the enchanting Cinderella being swept off her feet by the prince, while her malicious stepsisters secure marriages with two noble lords, resulting in a happily ever after for everyone involved. This timeless tale traces its origins back to the 1st century BC, where the protagonist, originally named Rhodopis, captivated readers much like Cinderella does today. Although the basic storyline remains intact, certain elements such as the iconic glass slippers and pumpkin carriage were absent in the ancient rendition. However, beneath the veneer of this delightful narrative lies a more sinister adaptation by the Grimm brothers. Within their version, the wicked stepsisters resort to mutilating their own feet to fit into the glass slipper, hoping to deceive the prince. Their deceit is ultimately exposed by two vigilant pigeons who peck out the stepsisters' eyes, leading them to live the remainder of their lives as sightless beggars, while Cinderella revels in opulence and comfort within the confines of the prince's magnificent castle. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel for more content. Also, don't forget to share this video with your friends. We appreciate your support. Bye.